Hello and welcome everyone to today's session, The Value of Telemetry for Security Foundation. My name is Saif and I will be your host for today. Today we will be using Slido to push some polls as well as get your questions there. Please join us on the Slido. There, I will just send you now on the chat also for you guys to try it. Let me just make sure everyone gets it. Also, I will just create a small poll just to test that you guys are seeing us and you are getting the pull request. So please answer the poll that we got on Slido just for us to see that you guys are able to join. Now, for today's session, my colleague Pedro will be driving the presentation. Let me first introduce Pedro. He's a security customer success specialist at Cisco, working for the EMEA region mainly. Pedro has experience working in the security field for over 7 years now with products from multiple vendors. And the current focus is on Cisco products, namely the Cisco Firewall, Secure Endpoint, and Cisco XDR. With that, let me pass the ball to my colleague Pedro to guide us through the session.
All right, Saif, thank you very much. And hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. And so we're going to be dividing the session up into three main categories or sections. First, we'll be starting with the showing me how, which is we're going to be covering how you can benefit from telemetry. And we're going to go over the whys, why you should share it, what data is shared with Cisco, and when you have telemetry enabled. And once you do enable telemetry, how is that data stored once we start collecting it? Then we're going to go over into more detail into the data and how it is being collected and stored. The data retention as well, how we are handling the data retention, what are our policies, and then finally enabling telemetry in the two products covered for today's session, which will be Secure Firewall and ICE as well. The final section here is on questions and answers. So we'll have a live Q&A where you'll be able to ask questions live and I'll answer them, and some extra resources that I'll share towards the end of the slide deck for you to get all of the information that you need for today's session. Right, so getting us started with the first section here on the why you should enable telemetry and what are the benefits of sharing. So, right, telemetry is the automatic collection and transmission of data, right? So it's something that our products send if you choose to opt into that. And so you are in control of sending telemetry or not sending telemetry. But it is this transmission from our products. For example, if we look at the FMC, the Firewall Management Center, that's sending data back to Cisco. And that is a select subset of data. I'm going to go a bit through about the why, and then as I talk in and show you what's new and go into a little more detail, in this case with Firewall, you're going to quickly understand why this is actually quite important for the roadmap of products, not just Firewall, but overall, but also for you as a customer and what results you see from it when you have telemetry enabled, right? So a great example of telemetry, as you've all probably heard of Tesla, but not just Tesla. There are most electric car manufacturers today are doing this in one way or another. So Tesla cars are constantly gathering telemetry and data through sensors, through all of the components that are within the car, and then they send that back to improve the overall experience, so whether that is maintenance, features, and so on. It's pretty similar in the case of Cisco telemetry, or the telemetry that the products have the capability to send. So we're getting back, again, a select subset of data to get insights on how, for example, the firewalls are being used. If there's any challenges that we face or that you as a customer face with them, and then we'll also get the utilization features. So are you utilizing certain features or not? What are you utilizing more when compared to the rest? Right? So this is a really rich data set, but very specific. And I actually have a separate slide that talks and goes through what are the specific data points that we collect. So we'll go over those in more detail. And because privacy is still one of our primary focus points, we want to make sure that we do not violate any of these expectations that you have as a customer, let alone any specific laws. So in this example, we securely collect that telemetry data so that then we can provide these insights both for us as Cisco, but then also to you as a customer. So as we get back insights from how you're using your products, we understand what are some of the challenged areas within the product portfolio so that we can invest and then improve and iterate on these. So our internal testing team has a lot of testing capabilities and a lot of customer scenarios that we replicate in there. It's actually hundreds of them that we have, but there is a challenge also. There are thousands and tens of thousands of customers out there, and we want to make sure that we provide a solid solution for all of them, right? And the only way that we can actually do that at scale is via something like telemetry. So before you as a customer have to call back, go through the triage process, prioritizing and so on, we want to proactively know that there might be some things flaring up to push out updates for you to stay on a solid working platform. It also helps us with threat detection and prevention by sending some basic macro data. And again, I have slides that are going to cover what's the actual data set that we're collecting. And this really helps us improve our products overall. To give you more understanding of the internal process with a quick example, telemetry information gets reviewed on a weekly basis, and we analyze that data that is coming in so that the engineering team can then prioritize what can we fix, what should we accelerate fixing in our upcoming releases so that no more customers are running into these possible challenges. Then on the flip side of that, as well, what features are customers using more so that we can iterate on these and make them even better. Right, so now it's time for the next poll, which is, do you have telemetry enabled in your security products today? I have three options here: yes, no, or not sure. If you haven't checked, we'll be going through the full results in just a bit, so please go ahead and vote. And while that is happening, we'll cover this very interesting slide, in my opinion. To give you an update on where we are with our software, in this case, Firewall, I'll give you an update particularly on the 7.4 or up to the 7.4 release. To illustrate just how significant the changes are, not just from a feature perspective, but also from a reliability and stability perspective. So this is a view that shows you over the releases, starting with 7.0 release. If we look over on the right-hand side of the slides, of the graph on the right-hand side, for possible issues that are encountered, and then on the left-hand side, there's the adoption that we see in customer environments. Again, this is informed by telemetry, so we know which customers are on which version for us to understand where we need to put additional support and adoption efforts. But there are really these dramatic changes just from our 7.0 releases up to the previously most recent 7.4 releases, really bringing down the challenged areas of defects and then escalations of these defects by more than 50% over these first few releases, let alone the earlier ones, right? The 6.0s, the 6.0 training. So really showing that leveraging these insights that we get from telemetry, then quantifying it with back cases and escalations that we receive both from customers and from sales, and then informing on how do we improve the product really helps customers see better and improved stability. And we're hearing good feedback from our customers running these newer releases, being very satisfied when compared to earlier ones with all of the innovations that were introduced. And as I finish that, Saif, do you have the results?
Yes, so we have the results. So we got 43% having the telemetry enabled, 29% they don't have it enabled, and another 29% are not sure if they have it enabled or not. Okay.
All right. So later on, like I mentioned, we're going to go over how to check for firewall and eyes. Maybe that will help out. Right. Looking at the next slide and talking about innovation. So a lot of these main features here you see that have come in to the 7.4 and 7.4.1 releases. A few really big ones here, focusing on these four, is where we introduced multi-cloud defense into our portfolio. We also introduced more capabilities inside of EVE, or Encrypted Visibility Engine, which we call now Encrypted Visibility Engine 2.0, with extra options to expand on remediation capabilities. Secure Firewall is now offering SD-WAN capabilities, basically making it your single device that you can use in a branch for both connectivity and security. And then Zero Trust Application Access, where we allow you to leverage the rest of the portfolio and your own identity providers if you want to really secure who and what applications have access to what resources in the environment. Okay, so one of the big investments, going back to the initial slide that I briefly mentioned this, where we're really making significant improvements from the 7.0 releases all the way up to 7.4. And then we continue that trend in 7.6, which is the most recent release in September for Firewall. And focusing on what was added at the high level. So in terms of simplifying how you use the product, probably the most important one in this section would be the FMC upgrade simplification. So we acknowledge and we know it has been tough on previous releases. So we have focused on, again, simplifying it and making it more reliable. And one of the main points here is the capability to upgrade the FMCs that are in high availability, so the management centers, using there's now an upgrade wizard, so you don't have to go through a more complex process. This is not similar to how the FTDs do it. They'll dynamically switch as needed. We have made improvements in the change management workflow, so the ticketing system this is not a new feature in this release, but we added new capabilities in terms of modifying ticket permissions and what can you do when you review these tickets that are created. The policy analyzer and optimizer. So this is something new that automatically analyzes your access control policies that are on the FMC and gives suggestions for improvement. And this needs an integration with CDO, Cisco Defense Orchestrator, or Cisco Security Cloud Control, as it's called now. Then also simplified deployment and templates with SD-WAN. So again, keeping the investment and the iteration of the SD-WAN capability firewall. In terms of platform, there's higher capabilities for clustering on the newer appliances that were introduced more recently to the portfolio, as well as multi-instance support. And then just overall improvements in speed for decryption when it comes to these as well. For the threat portion of it, there's now a MITRE column in the event viewer where you can correlate it to the MITRE framework and gives details on the progress of an attack. And also a new neural network-based exploit detection event, which is an IPS rule that gets triggered when the neural network detects an attack. And this is delivered via the LSPs, which are the files that essentially update your IPS rule database. And then finally, on the last column here, we have the Firewall AI assistant. So this is something also new that got introduced, where you can interact with an AI model to help you manage your firewall and ask it questions about your environment and get those answers back if you activate it and are on this release. Another example of the benefits of enabling telemetry is not just when it comes to when you send data to Cisco and then we use that data to improve on further releases. There's also programs that we run periodically on multiple platforms. In this case, I have here the example of Firewall. So this was a program that started in 2024. And this basically allowed customers to request based on telemetry or feedback from sales and your account teams to request Cisco help with upgrading your environment to the latest recommended release. So it was specific for the latest recommended release, not for any other version. And once we either proactively engage you on this, or if you were to reach out, you would get the benefit of having Cisco teams performing the upgrade for you, and this came at no additional cost. Okay, this was applicable for up to 50 firewalls, the upgrade of up to 50 firewalls. And since the start of this program, we have reached over 500 customers globally with more than 3,000 devices successfully upgraded to the latest recommended release at those specific periods of time. And these went from your straightforward migrations or updates to more intricate ones that had migrations in the middle and had older or third-party systems in the mix. And obviously, as a benefit to customers, as a benefit to you, obviously the cost is one of them, but the other one being that you are handling or dealing directly with Cisco to perform the upgrades. So there's regular calls and sync ups. You get all of the support you needed there. And the peace of mind. So after we perform the upgrade, there would be a dedicated tech team on standby to ensure that the post-upgrade component was successful and everything was running as intended. Okay, going to the next section here, what data is shared with Cisco when you have telemetry enabled. And as promised, so looking at secure firewall first, I do want to make sure that we clarify that what we collect as Cisco through the success network and our telemetry. So you can see some data here, and these are the basic statistics, right? In the documentation, which the links will be shared, you can see the full detail of what is shared. And there we go. The link is available in the chat. But this is just a high-level view. And again, we don't collect your configurations. For example, what specific objects you have and so on. Those are yours. What we want to understand is what kind of features and capabilities are you using? Which version are you running? What's the health of the platform? And so on, right? So that we can then grab that information and inform the product team on what we want to focus on to improve the product, and to you as a customer in helping you to make the most out of your purchase and support, basically support you in adopting the product to achieve your outcomes, right? Whether that is via programs like the fireworks that you just saw, or other programs that we develop and proactively reach out to you based on what we see that you have enabled, features that you have enabled. So that's really what we use telemetry for. A quick comparison. This is also available in the documentation shared. But when we compare ASA telemetry, so the older ASA telemetry, to the new Firepower telemetry, the key differences is, of course, Firepower or Secure Firewall, and there are more products that support it. It's easier to send telemetry. You don't need, for example, the FXOS service manager that you used to need. And what we support in terms of telemetry, we have more fields, so that gives a more granular report back. Okay. Looking at Cisco ICE, so the story is very similar to what we collect when compared to Firewall, and this is going to be, if you have a look at all the privacy data sheets that are being shared, you'll see that it's going to be very, very similar even across the products that are not the focus of the session today, right? So again, we're looking at things like what versions you're running, what's the status of your appliance, statistics into posture, node information, and so on, right? And again, you can get details into this via the link that was just shared. There's also, when you enable telemetry, whether that is enabled by default, which is the case of Cisco ICE starting from version 3.0. So with Cisco ICE starting from that version, telemetry comes on automatically when you install the product. For Firewall, that's not the case. But regardless, when you have telemetry enabled, you also need to make sure if there's any device upstream that might block the connection, you have to make sure that you are allowing the connection on these resources. So on these URLs and ports, we need this to be present in order for the communication to be sent successfully back to us. Otherwise, even though you have it enabled in the product and you might think that you are sending it, it's actually being blocked on the device upstream, another firewall, for example. Okay, so going to the next section here, where we're gonna explore and see how data is handled and how it's collected. First one here, where is my data stored once it is collected? So this is a question that comes up occasionally, and you want to know, customers want to know where data is being stored when it comes to the multiple zones and regions that we have, right? So depending on where you are or where the tenant, in case of cloud products, but if we look at Firewall, so depending on where you deploy it, we're going to be collecting it mainly through AWS, where we have multiple availability zones. We have them for North America, EU, And then for Asia Pacific, we have it in Japan, India, and Australia. And then we also have a third facility, a third-party facility for Cisco Talos, which this is mainly in the case of Firewall, which is the one here, where you, if you have the integration with CDO or as it's called now, Security Cloud, that's where we're going to be processing data as well. And again, details on this, because this is a high-level view, are provided within the privacy data sheet. For Cisco ICE, it's going to be similar. So we also make use of AWS. This is mainly for the interactive help, for PX Grid Cloud if you use it, and for telemetry, as well as Snowflake computing, which is used to provide more functionality on this. All right. And again, more information available on the privacy data sheet text. And those are all being shared in the chat here. Right. So how is the data security and retention handled? This is another important topic to cover. So when it comes to the data, whether it's in transit or at rest, that is encrypted, right, for all scenarios. So this one here is for secure firewall. And again, this is a subset of data that is captured, more details in the privacy data sheet. If we look at the usage data, telemetry, which is the third one that you see on the table here. So this is retained by CX. CX is customer experience for up to 2 years. Other data or telemetry data regarding migrations, event data, and so on, you can see here for how long we are storing it, and you can also have that data deleted upon request if you want to as well. For ICE, it's going to be a similar story. So if we look at telemetry data, this is used for product improvement services, and that will be deleted upon request. Some others, in the case of PX Grid Cloud, this is going to be stored for a very short period of time. Others will be deleted immediately when you don't have the product license. In others, again, like I said, you can have it send a request to have it deleted. Okay, so if you still have privacy concerns, or if you want to check the privacy data sheets, but for other products, not just security or other security products, you can go to trustportal.cisco.com. This is a very useful website where you can check all things regarding compliance and how Cisco handles data that you share with us. For each product, you have the privacy data sheets that we shared, but you also have privacy data maps, you have information on compliance and regulations, for things like HIPAA, FedRAMP, and so on. So you can check those all in trustportal.cisco.com and view those and kind of explore and see what's available there that might be useful to you. Okay, so when it comes to enabling telemetry, looking at secure firewall first, it's very simple in all of the cases, but for firewall, there might be a slight difference with the slides depending on which version you're on. So if you're on the current recommended release, you'll still see it like this. You'll go over to integrations, you'll have secure access, sorry, and then you have the option, a window to enable Cisco Success Network. Once you enable this, you'll start sending telemetry on related to your environment, okay? The telemetry, one thing to mention in the case of firewall, this is being sent by the FMC, okay? Even if you have a high availability pair, it's going to be sent by the active FMC, okay? So if you are running, for example, 7.4 and above, you are not going to see SecureX here. It's still going to be inside of integrations, but you'll see something like Security Cloud. And once you press that, you'll see the exact same thing. You just click the checkbox for Cisco Success Network and telemetry is in. When it comes to Cisco ICE, it's also pretty simple. Remember though that for Cisco ICE, when you are on version 3 and above, that is enabled by default when you install the product. But if you want to double check and make sure, it's under administration, system, settings, network success diagnostics, and then you have the telemetry checkbox there to enable it. You also have an extra option at the bottom, which is for or to add your Cisco account ID. If you do this, you can get emails, and if telemetry finds any serious issues that may affect your Cisco ICE deployments, the email that's attached to this account ID will get notified as well. Right, so coming up to our final section here, and before we go into the Q&A, I do have one extra slide here. So if there is a key takeaway from this session today, is that we understand that today's conversation can only get us so far, but you should now be aware that how we use telemetry in a secure, transparent, and ethical way to improve the product experience and what you get as a customer out of it. The call to action from this session is to have if you don't have telemetry enabled today, is that you have a discussion with your internal stakeholders, whether it's management and so on, about the potential values of having telemetry enabled, so that you can start to see more value from it, whether it's from those proactive motions that I mentioned, like, for example, fireworks, or contributing to the overall product improvement when it comes to the development side. Right, and with that, let's go to the live Q&A. So let me check as well, Safe I saw.
Yep. So we have a couple of questions that are already came in. So the first one that we got is, where can I find more details on how Cisco complies with privacy and legal requirements?
Right, so those are all available inside of the Trust portal. Specifically within every privacy data sheet, there's a section on that, which refers exactly to this question that you want. So how do we deal with the privacy and legal requirements? There might be some specific to the country, but those are also available inside of the Trust portal. You might need to search just outside of the privacy data sheet.
Okay. Thank you, Pedro. The second question, how can I request data to be deleted from the categories shown or for the categories shown? Yeah.
Okay, so that is also, there is a form for this. The easiest way to access it is within each product's privacy data sheet. If you scroll to the bottom, there's going to be a section on how to contact Cisco for this. You can either do it by an online form, which is the easiest way, or via letter, and they have all of the details there. Once you go to the online form, though, you have there a specific checkbox for a request to delete the data. Then you indicate what specific data you want to, for which product, and so on. And that will automatically get you in contact with the relevant people from Cisco staff.
Mm-hmm. We get two more questions. So if I turn on or off telemetry, does it impact smart licensing or updates?
Yeah, so the answer to that is no. There's no impact whether you turn it on or off. Those are all independent components. Telemetry is just, like I said, the statistics that we collect and send, but those don't impact in any way your licensing or the product updates.
Okay. And the last one that we got it on the Q&A part. On the WebEx or the webinar, is there a list with Cisco security products? that describe what type of telemetry that's enabled by default or not.
So if I understood correctly, if we have a list, for example, a table that has all of the products that have telemetry by default, I don't believe we do. But you can expect that, for example, every cloud product by default has telemetry enabled. So that's Umbrella, Secure Endpoint, Duo, and so on. So those are going to have telemetry on by default. For on-prem, it's going to be dependent on a case-by-case basis. Firewall, telemetry is not enabled by default. Cisco WISE, like I mentioned, is. And then for the other ones like secure network analytics and so on, I do not know for sure, but the privacy data sheets should mention that information as well.
Or for SNA, it is not enabled by default. You have to enable it.
Okay, so for SNA, used to be called Stopwatch, that is not enabled.
Thank you.
I saw a new one come in the chat. This is regarding the recordings, the recording for today's session. So that will be made available, I believe, Saif, correct me if I'm wrong, in the community space.
Yes.
The Cisco community.
Okay. Yeah. So if another thing that I would like to point here is that there will be like a post-session survey. If you'd like to get more specific details or even like the specific slide deck or specific recording, just feel free to fill the survey, give us your email, and we will be reaching you out after we finish this full journey. Okay?
Yeah, and I just posted all of the links. I know Saif has been posting them as the session goes on, but if you want to quickly copy all of them, I also posted them here in the chat. Any more questions? None that I can see. All right, so in that case, like Saif said, in the post-webinar survey, you can request to be contacted if you want more details or if you need anything extra. So you can go ahead and reach out through there. The session will be available in the community page as well. Once made available, once the recording is done, processing and so on. So you can view it in there as well. And that is it for today's session on the value of telemetry for security products. We hope you enjoyed today's session and have a great rest of the day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Bye-bye.